Stories from the Storm is a project of the Houston Flood Museum in partnership with Houston Public Media and is supported by Houston Endowment. Visit houstonfloodmuseum.org.
How we lead and serve every day will determine how we lead and serve when the Harveys hit.
Chief, I wanted to ask you, have you ever encountered something like a hurricane of that magnitude? I know you hail from California, being your first year here. What was your impression of all that and the challenge of having to deal maybe with a different type of natural disaster?
Well, having been in Southern California for 21 years as a police officer with the California Patrol, I've dealt with wildfires that have burnt hundreds and thousands of homes, mudslides, earthquakes, the LA riots, but I had never experienced a hurricane, A, and B, I had never experienced such a widespread disaster.
I was really impressed with the way we all came together, with Chief Peña, constables, ourselves. There wasn't a lot of time to train together and prepare for something of this magnitude. They absolutely rose to the level and performed at a high level. I'm very proud of them because I saw it firsthand as you did.
I think that the proof is in the pudding, and what we showed as a region is that despite being very under-resourced, our department is hundreds and hundreds of, not a couple thousand officers short. We didn't make excuses. All of our men and women made a difference, and the community that we serve is so diverse, really showed the world what community is all about, and that's neighbor helping neighbor. And it'll be, after a 32-year career, this is probably, Harvey will remain in my heart and my mind as one of the highlights of my career.
I know you always tout our diversity, in relational policing and Mayor Turner calling us a welcoming city, and we definitely are. How did that help, with your communications to the public, and why was it important at that time to get the message out?
Well, I think that we are operating at a time in our nation's history where there's a lot of division, there's a lot of demonization of people based on where they're from or their religion they follow. You and I have worked diligently as leaders in our teams to build trust, right? When SB 4 was being championed by the legislature and packaged as a public safety measure, we spoke out against it as public safety executives because we knew it ran contrary to that. You and I talked to ICE and we talked to the Department of Homeland Security about ensuring that they operate in a manner where, because they all came to help, and thank God they did. We had Border Patrol here, we had ICE agents here, we had HSI here. But at our urging, they put out the message that they weren't here to conduct any type of operation in terms of immigration enforcement. You recall, the ICE actually tweeted it out to the community in English and Spanish. We put it out, and I think that helped allay out a lot of the fears. And when you have potentially 600,000 undocumented immigrants in a region like we do here, I really felt that it was good on their part to put that message out, not just in Houston, but the entire operational area along the entire Gulf Coast that was hit by Harvey.
I think for me, one of the things is how do we build in more resilience into our agencies, into our team? But we're trying to build in more resilience to talk more about traumatic events and how they were impacted. And I think sometimes getting more information out on how they could best take care of their own families, because we call them in extended shifts, we're all in this together. What's one or two memories that stick out the most from your Hurricane Harvey experience?
To me, when we went to look for Sergeant Perez, and we knew that there was a high probability he was in the water, and we knew that he was in that muddy, contaminated water, and we knew he's there in full uniform. But the storm still hadn't passed. It was still raining up there, up north of the city, and to have the conversation with our officers about making the decision that this is what we knew to be a recovery mission, and you cannot risk lives to recover a body. We just couldn't do it. But to see the anguish in their faces and the fact that they wanted to go in, but we had to make the right decision. And then, there's nothing worse as a police officer to notify somebody that they're never going to see their loved ones again. And when Mrs. Perez was coming up the driveway, and when we had to fly us out there because it was all flooded, we couldn't get to his house. And she saw me in the doorway, she knew right away. And that's something that doesn't leave you, but that's something you cannot give somebody else to do. I don't think as leaders, that's our responsibility. From that tragedy, the way that he handled his last moments on earth and the way that his wife reacted, it was tragic, but the silver lining is it lifted us up knowing that that's the kind of commitment we have as as first responders.
But I think the aftermath is, in policing, traditionally, we don't talk about these things. We don't debrief individually. We might do large scale, after action plans, but sometimes they have families to deal with and homes that are going under. And we talked in the beginning about how you've experienced earthquakes and other things like that, but nothing quite prepares you for something like this. We don't train, traditionally for this.
And what makes me really proud is that the law enforcement community here, we maintain the role of safety and security without any degradation. And then we added rescue, and we stopped counting about 6,500 rescues. But someday the story of Harvey will be told in its entirety. There are so many stories of heroism, not just by the first responders, but by the community itself. While some are starting to think that diversity is a 4-letter word, I hope and pray that our community and the greater community that watches this doesn't lose sight of the fact that this diverse place showed the world that diversity was absolute a strength. And may I only tell you, it is a beautiful story, the story of Houston.
I agree wholeheartedly, and that as a native Houstonian, it was an honor to serve with you as a counterpart during Harvey. And under difficult times, we all prevailed, and we could learn from it and hope that we never have to face something like this again. But if we do, I know we'll be ready. It's an honor to sit down and remember some of the good memories and some of the hard times that we went through during that time, but we made it and we're here. And amen.
Amen. Love you, brother.
Thank you. Love you, my friend.